We met that dude, Duke the Jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot.
Welcome back to Fame Flux, where the truth behind fame gets exposed. Boosie just turned up the heat and publicly called out J. Prince Jr. over the setup involving Duke the Jeweler, and now J. Prince Sr. is clapping back. For years, Boosie was the one catching all the blame for Duke's tragic death. People said he lined him up, but Boosie's done playing quiet. He's pointing fingers directly at mob ties, and the internet is going wild. Now that Boosie's finally naming names, it's shifting the whole energy. The feds are reportedly paying closer attention, and social media is in full-blown detective mode.
The only way they could get their money back was hire money back. He said, but Lil Cam Wolf and Big Caprice are the three. I got the next, and they passed the dice to each other, but they loaded, but they shooting. They shooting against them representative.
But the question still stands. Who really made the call that night? And why is J. Prince Sr. suddenly stepping into the mix? Let's rewind. Back in November 2022, 29-year-old Duke the Jeweler was shot and killed in what was labeled a robbery, just moments after attending Boosie's concert in Houston, Texas. Right after that, rumors exploded, and many believed Boosie had something to do with it. Word on the street was that the two men who ran up on Duke weren't just random attackers. They were supposedly tied to Boosie by blood.
We met that dude, Duke the Jeweler, the night before. We was gambling. The next day, dude followed us to the concert. When we left out the concert, we under the garage. Dude went to his car by himself and walked down to the parking lot.
The internet ate that story up. While Boosie stayed quiet, the blame stuck for months. But now the narrative's shifting. The streets are taking a second look, and this time, all eyes are on someone who's stayed quiet too long, J. Prince Jr. J. Prince Jr., son of the man often called Houston's hip-hop godfather, stayed out of the spotlight until now. While Boosie took all the heat for Duke the Jeweler's death, the real puppet master might have been hiding in plain sight. Boosie was front and center, taking the blame. But the deeper details make it seem like this whole thing was set up from the start. Not just shady, possibly orchestrated.
Any real dude that's ever really been in LA, he checked in. Any real dude that's ever been in Atlanta, he checked in. If you moving and you getting money, you gonna check in because you need to know the right places to be and places not to be. That's a business.
Boosie? He was never the kingpin. He was the easy target, the one meant to take the fall, allegedly. Why him? Because he was there. He hit the stage that night, and Duke was reportedly invited by him. Some even claim Duke's Louis Vuitton bag popped up at Boosie's spot. But let's be real. Proximity doesn't equal guilt. All that shows is that Boosie was close by, not involved. And that made him the perfect scapegoat. See, fall guys are always the ones already caught up in drama, and Boosie had a history, gun charges, past court battles, and that high-profile Terry Boyd trial. Even though he beat those charges, his name still echoed in the courtroom halls. He was already guilty in the eyes of the streets. All that was missing was the right story. Now Boosie's pushing back. He's speaking up and naming names, calling out J. Prince Jr. directly, saying loud and clear, "Y'all tried to line me up." He claims he barely even knew Duke, said they met at a dice game. Then the next day, Duke pulled up to his concert alone. Just hours later, he's gone, murdered in a parking lot. It's not sitting right. Something's definitely off. Boosie isn't dancing around it. He's calling the whole thing exactly what it looks like, a setup. And now, people are finally starting to listen, because Duke the Jeweler wasn't shot in Baton Rouge, Boosie's turf. He got gunned down in Houston.
These industry, these streets, homie, they're projecting these rules, and then coming here playing like they admirable man with street rules and street etiquette. Nah, homie, them look was set up that night.
In Houston, that's not Boosie's domain. But you know whose territory it is? J. Prince Jr.'s. And now, Even Houston locals are speaking up online, shutting down the blame aimed at Boosie. One user wrote, "If you from Houston, you already know what really went down. Boosie didn't do that." Another comment hit even harder. "Why would Boosie set something up in a city that ain't his? That'd be bold and disrespectful." The streets are pushing back, calling out the lack of facts behind the original accusations. But it didn't stop there. One user went straight at J. Prince Jr., saying, "Boosie had nothing to do with that man's death. Look at J. Prince Jr." And then there's this. People started pointing out that J. Prince Jr. was also sitting at that dice game with Duke. That same dice game where everything started. And this is the same J. Prince Jr. who's allegedly been enforcing the Houston check-in rule. The idea that no rapper, influencer, or public figure can move around H-Town without checking in with the princes. Sources say Duke checked in like he was supposed to, and still didn't make it out. That's got folks saying this wasn't about safety, it was about control. It's not protection if people are still getting touched. That's not just shady, that's straight predatory. And it's not just Houston. Big U allegedly been pulling the same moves out on the West Coast, making artists check in or risk getting lined up too. The so-called check-in system is looking more like a trap than protection. Word on the street is, even rappers like PNB Rock allegedly followed the check-in rule and still got lined up. That's got people questioning everything. Schoolboy Q even spoke on it, saying plain and simple, rappers are getting robbed by the very same people they're told to check in with. It ain't protection, he said, it's extortion with a smile. That's a heavy accusation, but it's got a lot of heads nodding in agreement. And when it comes to Duke the jeweler, his case been throwing red flags since day one. From the moment the footage and photos dropped, folks could tell something wasn't right. That dice game? It wasn't just bad luck. People are saying it was fatal by design. Boosie wasn't running that table. He wasn't the boss. He was the bait. And the setup? It was deeper than anyone thought. Then it got even more explosive when Whack 100 jumped into the mix. Loud, raw, and completely unfiltered, Whack didn't hold back. He called it exactly how he saw it, a setup. He said Duke wasn't robbed randomly, he was targeted. And the ones behind it? According to Whack, it was J. Prince Jr.'s own people. He named names, specifically Lil Cam, and said they were running a dice table that was never fair from the jump. Whack explained it clearly. Duke started winning money he wasn't supposed to win. That messed up the whole plan. That night, Duke played into their hands, and when he caught a streak, the setup cracked. According to Whack, that moment sealed Duke's fate. The trap had been set, and Duke walked right into it. When you disrupt a system that's rigged, one powered by ego, money, and control, there's always a cost. And in Duke's case, he paid with his life. Whack 100 didn't sugarcoat it. He said flat out that J. Prince has been manipulating the game for years, acting like a protector while moving pieces behind the curtain. But Whack wasn't the only one airing things out. Charleston White jumped in with his own bold take. He said Duke's death hit hard, not just because Duke was talented, but because it never had to happen. Charleston laid it out plain. The mob ties culture in Houston isn't just risky, it's dangerous. He said it doesn't protect artists. It lures them in, only to throw them into situations where they're surrounded by wolves, dressed as friends. He said Duke didn't get clipped because he disrespected anyone. He got caught slipping because he didn't fully understand the game. Duke checked in with the wrong crew, thinking it meant safety. But according to Charleston, it was a trap from the start. He claimed Duke was played, not protected. And Charleston didn't hold back on the industry either. He said what most rappers are scared to admit, that this check-in system is nothing but extortion in disguise. It's a twisted street code where staying silent keeps you safe and speaking up gets you lined up. Charleston even called Duke's death a ritual, meant to send a message. Now the silence is breaking, and even 50 Cent has stepped in, throwing gasoline on a fire that's already out of control. He didn't say a lot, but what 50 Cent did post was more than enough to get people talking. He dropped cryptic videos, shared clips with layered captions, and made subtle moves that seemed to back Boosie without saying his name. The timing was no accident, and the streets noticed. But then things got even more chaotic when the Finesse 2x situation exploded, pushing everything into overdrive. Rumors started flying that J. Prince Jr. allegedly got Finesse's girl pregnant behind his back. And Finesse didn't hold back. He was loud, angry, and unapologetically vocal about it. And here's the kicker. J. Prince Jr. stayed silent. No denial, no response, nothing. And in this game, silence speaks volumes. If silence equals guilt, this one is screaming from every corner. Finesse, who once praised mob ties like family, doesn't even mention them now. It's like they vanished from his world. The loyalty, gone. The energy, cold. Fans picked up on the shift, and it's got the internet buzzing. First it was Takeoff's death, then Boosie's public call-out, and now this ugly fallout with Finesse. And in every single headline, one name keeps showing up, J. Prince Jr. The silence surrounding him isn't protecting him anymore. It's starting to feel like everything built on fear, influence, and control is slowly cracking. One fan wrote, J. Prince set up so many people and had others knocked off. Another said flat out, J. Prince did that, not Boosie. Because Duke the Jeweler wasn't just some random guy with diamonds. He was well respected, connected, and moving in big circles. His murder shook the culture. And now, everything tied to it is unraveling fast. Duke the Jeweler was a self-made king straight out of Chicago. No cosigns, no handouts, just grind, raw talent, and non-stop hustle. He started in the early 2000s, sketching designs in a tight makeshift studio, flipping scraps into showstoppers. Before long, his custom pieces were making waves in major spaces, showing up in Vogue, Elle, and draped on stars like Rihanna, King Von, 50 Cent, and even Boosie. But Duke wasn't just making flashy jewelry, he was building a legacy. His designs were elegant, not loud, but they told stories. And that kind of quiet power? It made him a threat in an industry where real independence shakes the room. Duke wasn't chasing fame, he was owning his lane. And sometimes that makes the wrong people uncomfortable. He didn't just step into a bad situation. He walked into a lion's den, rocking gold, trusting faces he shouldn't have, and shaking hands that didn't deserve his respect. That room, a high-stakes dice game hosted by none other than J. Prince Jr. According to sources, Duke came up heavy that night, cleaned the table, and reportedly walked away with over $100,000 in winnings. But that win may have come at a steep price. Right after that game, he was targeted, robbed for his chains, stripped of his money, his phone, and then shot multiple times. This wasn't a random act. This looked personal, like someone wanted to erase him. To this day, the industry hasn't recovered from it. Duke's death hit different, because it wasn't just a loss. It was a message, and everyone felt it. Ever since Duke's death, the whispers have never stopped, only grown louder. Behind the scenes, folks in the industry have been connecting dots, comparing timelines, and calling out patterns that are hard to ignore. Because Duke wasn't the first to meet a tragic end after brushing up against the wrong circle. And with every artist, jeweler, or entrepreneur that's taken out under mysterious circumstances, one name keeps echoing: J. Prince Jr. People are starting to question just how deep this game really goes. Some say there's an unspoken hierarchy in the rap world, where power isn't just about who's got hits. It's about who controls the streets behind the scenes. And when someone like Duke, a self-built powerhouse with no major label backing and no ties to any big crew, walks in and shines on his own, that shakes the foundation. That night at the dice game wasn't just about money. It was about territory, reputation, and control. Duke wasn't just winning at dice. He was proving he could move through H-Town without bowing to anybody's system. And to some, that's a violation that gets answered quickly and violently. Ever since, the energy in the scene has shifted. Rappers are quieter, more cautious. Some have stopped checking in altogether, while others are questioning if the whole check-in culture was ever really for their safety. People are realizing what was sold as unity might have always been control masked as loyalty. And now, with Boosie speaking out, Whack 100 pulling back the curtain, and Finesse 2 times turning his back, the silence is breaking. The walls around the empire are cracking, and it's only a matter of time before the truth pushes its way through. This wasn't just a robbery gone wrong, it was a calculated move. Duke the jeweler's death felt intentional, targeted, and deeply personal. Now Boosie is pushing back hard, fighting to clear his name, saying he had no part in it. When footage surfaced, showing his reaction to Duke's murder, he looked visibly shaken. Not like someone hiding guilt, but like someone blindsided by tragedy. And maybe, just maybe, he really was. But now things are spiraling, and J. Prince Sr. has entered the battlefield. While Boosie's flipping the script and pointing fingers, accusing J. Prince Jr. of orchestrating setups, J. Prince Sr. isn't staying silent. He's firing back with words, trying to paint Boosie as a liar and Whack 100 as a loudmouth looking for attention. But the streets? They're not buying it. They remember what happened to Takeoff, in the same city under the same shadowy circle. The coroner's report didn't say stray bullet. It said multiple shots to the head and torso. That don't sound like no accident. That sounds like a hit. Planned. Deliberate. J. Prince Sr. might be calling Whack 100 a clown, trying to silence the noise. But it's too late. People are connecting dots, and no amount of name-calling is changing the narrative. The silence from the top, it's cracking. And the empire once built on fear and respect is now being questioned at every angle. If you've been following this story, it's far from over. Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe for more deep dives just like this. Because this drama is just heating up.